Hi, I'm Nate from Nate Cooks, and in this video I'm going to show you how I make sausage and broccolini orecchiette. The first thing I'm going to do is chop up an onion, and I'm only going to use half an onion here instead of using a whole onion. I also had an extra yellow squash that I'm going to add. You don't have to add this, but I had it laying around so I figured I would add it in. Similar thing, I'm just going to put a dice on it. For the broccolini, I cut off the bottoms because those can get a little bit tough, and then I just cut up the rest into bigger chunks. I remove the casing of the sausage. To do that, I just run my knife down the middle, pull off the casing, and then just cut it up into chunks. It really doesn't cut all that well, and that's okay, I'm just trying to break it up a little bit. And here I'm using mild Italian sausage, but you can use hot or spicy Italian sausage if you have it. And for the garlic, I'm going to use 3 cloves of garlic here, and I'm just going to mince this up pretty fine. And then I'm going to get my Dutch oven onto about medium-high heat. So I'm going to put a little bit of canola oil into the bottom of the pan and get that worked around. And while that's coming up to temp, I'm going to bring over the prepped veggies. Once the oil's hot, the first thing I like to add is the sausage. That way I can pull out some of the fat in here and then figure out if I have too much fat or if I have to add more in before I add the vegetables in. I've also started some water on to boil. Once I have a nice fond on the bottom of the pan, I'll add in the onion, and that'll help pull out some of that fond. And I'll also add in the yellow squash. But again, if you're not using the yellow squash, then you would just skip this step. And I'm also checking to make sure that some of that fond is coming up. And if it's not, then what I would do here is I would add in a little bit of water to help bring some of that up. I'm also going to start adding in my dry herbs here. That way they have a chance to cook a little bit and bloom a little bit. I'm going to be using parsley and basil. And I'll also add in salt and pepper at this step too. And now I'm just checking to make sure that I'm not getting too much browning. And I'm going to add in the garlic. And I'm only going to cook the garlic for a couple minutes because I don't want it to burn. As I'm waiting for the water to start boiling, I'm going to blanch in the broccolini. This will help lock in the color a little bit, but then also will start to soften it, so I don't have to cook it all the way in the pan. I'll blanch it for about 4 minutes, and then I'll add it right into the pot. And I add it without straining it, so that way some of the liquid will help break up some of that fond at the bottom as well. I don't end up using a whole pound of pasta here. I end up using about 3/4 of the bag, and that should be plenty. I'm also getting the fresh parsley ready at this point. I like to add it near the end, but I just had a minute, so I figured I would prep it here. The other important thing to do while the pasta is cooking is to remember to pull out some of the pasta water. We'll use it later to either thicken or loosen up the sauce if we need it. Once the pasta is pretty much cooked, I'll strain it off and then start adding it in. Here I'm just checking to make sure that I have a good ratio and I don't have too much pasta as compared to the vegetables. Depending on how much broccolini or zucchini or onion you added, you might need to add a little bit more or less pasta. This is looking a little dry to me, and so I'm going to start adding in pasta water a couple ladles at a time. At this point I'm going to add in the Parmesan cheese, and that'll really help tighten up the sauce too. And then before I stir in that Parmesan cheese, I'll add in the fresh parsley and a little bit of lemon juice as well. I really think that the lemon juice helps brighten this up. The broccolini can be sometimes a little bit bitter, and everything's a little heavy in here, and the lemon really brightens it up. In this I ended up using the juice of about 1/2 lemon. So here I'm just making sure that I have everything mixed up really well, and everything's coated with the cheese and the lemon juice. And I'm also checking to see if it's a little too thick, and if it is, then I can add more pasta water if needed. And then I'll check for seasoning to see if it needs any salt and pepper. But at this point I'd probably add more cheese instead of salt. And then to finish the sauce I like to add in about 1 tablespoon of butter. And that helps bring in a sheen to the pasta. And this was looking a little bit tight after I added the butter. And so now I'll add in a little bit more pasta water, and then I can make an emulsification with the butter that's in there. Once the butter is melted and the sauce is thickened back up, then it's time to serve it. I like to finish mine with a little bit of grated Parmesan and red pepper flake. And there you have it, sausage and broccolini with orecchiette. I really like how this one turned out, so I hope you give it a shot. And if you do, let me know how it turned out. Here are a couple other videos that you can check out, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day.